Hello everybody, I hope you can see me. There we go. Hi, sorry. I usually hit auto start on the YouTube streaming and I forgot. And so if you were on another platform, you may have seen me turn on just briefly. And we'll get going because we have a short deep dive today. But let me just move my windows around. An echo. Other folks hear an echo? I do have a fan on behind me. You should hear that, but you shouldn't get an echo. Although the rug's pulled up, maybe I have an echo in here. Or you have it open twice. Taya says it sounds fine. Great, thank you. Hello everybody, this is Deep Dive. We do deep dives normally 2 p.m. Pacific here on the Adafruit streams. Today is a little bit different because it is CircuitPython Day 2024. So if you haven't already, I know there's some folks that have been watching all the streams, but if you want to get a discount, you can go to adafruit.com, purchase hardware there, use the code CPD16 to get a discount on a 16% discount on most things. Hi JBC, welcome. Usually these streams are 2 hours long, but today we're just going to do an hour because Tim, Foamy Guy, who also fills in for me on the regular, is doing a Game Jam stream, which is going to be very exciting. So check that out soon. If you don't know, CircuitPython is a version of Python designed for little tiny computers called microcontrollers. Meant to be make it really easy to program. And the way that most of those do that is you plug it in, it shows up as a CircuitPy drive on your computer, and you can edit the code.py file from your favorite code editor. That's how we try to make it really easy, just one of the ways. Deep dives are usually me talking about working on the core of CircuitPython and answering questions. So if folks have questions for me, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Dave is in the YouTube chat and says, "Hi Scott, how do you follow JP?" Good. I do. I usually have a day to for everybody to get less excited about JP. But yeah, it's fun doing all these streams back to back to back, and yeah. Jono is here, Tyeth is here, DCD's here, Paul Cutler's here, JBC, Deshipu, Dinkelberg, Dave Odessa, Beata, welcome, welcome, welcome. So, another housekeeping thing for CircuitPython Day, I wanted to just give shout outs to a huge thank you to Anne and Liz, who did a lot of the work to organize and schedule today. So they deserve credit for that and putting it all together. Dan and I did a coffee chat earlier, and Liz and Noe were behind the scenes getting that going too. So thanks to the whole Adafruit team, but in particular Anne and Liz for putting the day together. Hello 560. So I thought maybe if people have questions, I'm happy to answer them. But I thought I'd just do a quick overview of all the changes I made this week. I went on a bit of a tear and did a bunch of stuff the first 2 days, and then kind of hit a bit of a muck when I was doing. I did the ESP IDF update. Hello 3D Tech Guy, welcome, welcome. Okay, so let me get myself a window, and sorry for there's a fire extinguisher place just out the window, and the window is open, so that's why you're hearing those sorts of noises. It's already 11 p.m. Yes. I know this is a little late for European folks, so if you have to go to bed, that's totally fine. I know I'm not showing my desktop yet either. So I will go to the desktop. And I just fixed the bundle. That's what this is under here. The bundle had stopped for like 3 weeks. So that was my priority today. Okay, so let's just take a look at the PRs that we've had. PR is short for pull requests. Yeezy said, I'm pretty new to Arduino. How would I create a 3D volumetric display that spins? So I don't actually know Arduino that well either. And I'm not a great mechanical person. I'm more of a software person. But I think it's probably similar to persistence of vision projects where they kind of expect you to use a camera to see an image. If you go to learn.adafruit.com, that's a good place to find that sort of projects. But unfortunately, I am not the best person to answer those questions, unfortunately. So here's what I've been doing. Well, this is everything. We did translations. I added support for, let's see. I switched us back to Tiny USB upstream because I had to bed at 10 on a Friday. Yeah, I'm usually up to 11, but I also have a child that gets up at like 7. I added, so the RP2350 has additional UART pins. I added support for that. Translations got merged in. Citron, this person's from Citron, they added another RP2350 board. I fixed a bug where ESP32S3s weren't starting up at all, which was pretty bad, and that was due to a bug I had in the TLSF library, which is what we use to manage memory. I enabled RGBMatrix on the RP2350. This is something that I kind of like lollygagged around because I didn't really want to have to change. There's an underlying library called Protomatter, and I didn't really want to have to like fork that and keep it secret while it was out. So I just thought, oh, I'll just do it later. And I was like quite happy. All I had to do was basically tell it to use the RP2040 code, and the RP2350 code just worked. It was pretty magical. That's pretty true for the USB host on the 2350 as well. So that is running on the 2350 too. So I'm very excited about this because now we can combine the DVI output HSTX stuff that I showed on Deep Dive last week with USB host all in one, which will be very cool. John was talking about doing some retro gaming stuff, and I think there's a future where we make an all-in-one retro CircuitPython computer, which I'm very, very excited about. In fact, I think Lamore Lady Ada is working on the Metro, and I was giving some feedback on how we could actually make the Metro be able to do that too, which would be cool. She had some extra pins, and I was like, designate some pins for USB hosts. That'll be good. I added a board definition for the SparkFun Pro Micro 2350. Toddbot got one and was willing to test, so I added that. Board definitions are quite easy to do, and in fact, I know Toddbot has 2 Pimoroni boards as well. I was thinking about maybe I'd just do that today. As well. Subscribe to the Metro RP2350 patiently. That's going to take a little longer than the Feather. The Feather is going to come sooner than that. So if you are waiting for an Adafruit 2350 board, make sure you're subscribed for the Feather as well. We had prototyped the Metro with the smaller of the 2 chips, but Lamore Lady Ada wanted to redo the Metro with the larger of the 2 chips. So I think there might, I don't know how much of a like testing prototype phase she'll do before she gets it in a larger batch to sell. Removing unique error messages was just an optimization thing I did where somebody had added the ability to do a different type of e-paper display. and they had just a few error messages that were unique, and I saw the translate changes come in and thought, we don't actually need those. Jono says, fingers crossed for the B chip Grand Central. I don't think that's going to happen because it doesn't have enough pins. The Grand Central has a lot of pins, and I don't think the 80-pin 2350 has enough to actually do it. The thing that I'm pushing for in terms of a new Grand Central is actually an IMX 1060, which is the chip that's on the TC4, and you can get those with a lot of GPIO, and they're 500 megahertz, like super chips. So that if you want to join my club and wanting an IMX 1060 Grand Central, that's what I would do. Although I don't know, so the ESP32P4 is also kind of like in that class, and apparently you can get samples for it now. For those of you who don't normally watch Deep Dive, I often go on tangents like this, so welcome to Deep Diving. Feel free to drop things in the chat. Hem suggests an RP2350 PyGamer. These I don't do board design, even though sometimes I dabble in it. These are great suggestions for Lady Ada, and the reality is, in terms of RP2350 stuff, is that the number of designs that we're going to have is not going to really explode until we have a lot of them. And I don't think they're like super... they're not super available yet, so wait for it. John says, we're here for the tangents. Yes. Yeah, I'm eagerly awaiting to get a P4 dev kit. This is one of the newer chips from Espressif. It's actually the first one with no networking included, but it's high performance. It's dual RISC-V cores at 400 megahertz. It has MIPI, which is pretty wild. That's like a very new or a faster display and camera format. So this says 55 programmable GPIOs, which is still probably not enough for a Grand Central, unfortunately, because the big RP2350 is 48. So the P4 does have more GPIO than the RP2350 80-pin, but not that much, and I don't know exactly what the pin count for Grand Central is. So we'll see. Yeah, and I3C. So I3C is like the successor to I2C. I don't really understand how it works, but it's in that vein. Oh, and that's funny because they trademarked TWAI, two-wire automotive interface, which is also known as CAN bus. So going back to the pull request, and we'll dovetail back to the P4, but I fixed the audio issue that Toddbot found, which was an issue with interrupts. And now this is where I could rant a little bit. So I've had a lot of problems with both the Pico, and if you follow me on Mastodon, you know this already, but the pico-sdk and the ESP IDF 5.3 both started doing this registration format where it relies on the linker and the linker script and the linker command to link in functions into an array that then it gets called both like one after another in initialization. Unfortunately, that means that if you fail to link in an init function, it compiles and it links, but then when you run, it crashes. And I've been having a lot of I've been having a lot of issues with that, both in the IDF side and on the Pico SDK. So I was complaining about that. That wasn't quite the issue with the audio playback on the RP2350 that Todd was trying. There's this, ability in C to mark something as weak. So you can create a function. You can create a function and call it weak, and then if you create that function again but don't mark it weak, it will replace the weak version. But the problem is that if you don't include the one that's meant to replace the weak one, it still builds and compiles and links just fine. It just, again, doesn't work. So the problem with the audio playback was that the DMA interrupt wasn't successfully named correctly. And so what happened is that, like, as you got the audio going, it called an interrupt and then it crashed. It tried to call the interrupt and it crashed because it was the weak version, not the right one. Unexpected Maker added 2 more boards from them. Dan merged the 91X changes into main, and then I updated us to IDF 5.3, which I was hoping would fix an issue with the Funhouse, but apparently it hasn't fully fixed it. Dan did some testing and found that it wasn't quite working, unfortunately. One of the cool things about the ESP IDF is the code that we use to interface with Espressif hardware. It's code that Espressif provides. And version 5.3, the headline item is that it has support for this new P4 chip, which I am like so eager to get my hands on. ESP32S3 handheld. Can the build process catch the missing functions? Not really. Well, part of the problem is that we don't use their build system. And so this registration, sorry, I know I'm going in a lot of tangents. The way that it works with the pico-sdk and the ESP IDF is the registration stuff works okay because it's using their own build system that manages the build portions of that to make it work correctly. But in CircuitPython, we kind of build the vendor stuff, but then we do the CircuitPython-y parts ourselves, and then we link them all together ourselves. And if we don't do that right, it doesn't work. It's a huge pain, and it makes me really frustrated because they're really hard bugs to fix because like there's no context, right? Like they're not saying, oh, you haven't initialized this yet. It's just like it doesn't work. It crashes for some reason. Like some memory's not initialized. The Pica or the RP2350 has what they call a GPIO coprocessor, which is a way to write to the GPIO peripheral, avoiding the memory bus. It uses like a coprocessor bus instead, which is super high bandwidth. But the problem is you need to turn it on before you use it. And if you don't turn it on before you use it, then it crashes. So it's just, I wish it was just a function that called initialization functions and like the linker failed if you didn't have it. Because I'm quite lazy and I don't do a lot of runtime testing. It builds, therefore it's fine. Any questions? I think I've done my build rant. Nice. Hamslab's doing a tech work for a cool art project I'm working on with a painter. Did you try to turn it off and on again? Sometimes you do need to do that, especially in these chips that have external... Hi, Oberchu. Welcome from Citron. That's the end of my rant. Good luck. Deep dives all about tangents. Yeah, Citron worked with us for the RP2350 launch. So it was awesome to see them have boards from the get-go too. All right, since I don't have much time, let's just do some board defs. Since I know now that people are starting to get their RP2350 boards, I can ask them to test CircuitPython builds. So the Pimoroni folks made a number of them, and I know that Toddbot got a couple. Toddbot got a Tiny 2350 and a Pico Plus because I saw the Tiny 2350 running some other firmware on it, which, so I should say that you can probably, if you have a 2350 board that we don't support, you could probably run CircuitPython on it just fine. The biggest difference is usually like the pin mapping, but you can actually access all of the pins via, instead of import board, you can do import microcontroller.pin and then get access to all the pins directly. So board definitions are more of a convenience. And in fact, one thing that the RP2040 needed is to know the flash chip that is on a particular board. But the boot ROM in the 2350 will actually automatically configure the flash for you. And I think I think it's still in there, I added warnings. So if your flash doesn't actually successfully come up as a quad flash chip, it'll give you a warning and say like, hey, like your chip's not running as fast as it could be, or it likely should be. Todd says I use the standard Pico 2 build of CircuitPython on the SparkFun Pro Micro 2350 and the Tiny 2350 without any issue. Yep. But I like to make it easy. And I like to make it easy, and I like to advertise that we have support for individual boards. So let's just clear out all of my many tabs. This is called like tab bankruptcy here. Dinkelberg, total noob at programming, watching a hardcore programming stream. Welcome. Ask questions. I'm happy to try and explain things. So I fixed the bundle. It hadn't run for 3 weeks, but we're not gonna do that. I don't have to worry about leaking RP2350 anymore, which is nice. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm going to make a new branch for some Pimoroni boards. Git switch C Pimoroni RP2350. And I'm going to do it based on the latest main. And we use submodules, so I'm going to make sure that I'm using the latest submodules as well. The RP2350 is a very cool chip. And in fact, I thought about just showing off USB host along with the DVI output, but I got lazy. Sorry. Let's see where we're at. So now I'm going to switch to the directory. So this is going to be kind of a just like, I'm not sure if this is being asked, is the USB host coming soon for the RP2350? So it's in main, it's merged into main, but it is not in a release yet. So we did one alpha release. We had planned to do another one this week, but we kind of ran out of time, and we wanted to get the IDF thing in there, but it should work. It should work in the latest main builds. Yes. There I had to make sure that the memcopy function was available in RAM because we restrict the second. So the second core runs core USB work. And this is like when people are like, oh, I want to run Python on the second core. Well, actually, for USB host, we use the second core to do like some timing sensitive USB host stuff. So we actually limit that core to run code only from RAM so that it doesn't, so that we don't have to worry about it trying to access Flash if we were like writing to Flash. Yeah, I mean the RP2350, we're gonna have lots of cool stuff, especially once we can get boards, and like Adafruit was moving, so the machine line's still actually down. So we're a little bit behind that wave, but it's a long game, and there's going to be some really cool RP23 stuff coming out. I'm sure. It's if you don't need connectivity, if you don't need wireless connectivity, Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, the RP2350 is a great chip. If you do need that, the ESP32S3 is a great chip too, which is, I think, still my favorite one right now. Okay, I think my audio's on, so I'm just gonna switch it. Okay, so what I usually do for making a new board def is just copy something similar. And I'm in the wrong branch. So Raspberry Pi. The ESP32S3 has Ethernet, but we don't really have native Ethernet support at all. We focus on Wi-Fi and BLE. We haven't really done a lot of Ethernet. So RP2350 boards, and I guess I will start with the Raspberry Pi one. I'm going to do kind of a hybrid. So Raspberry Pi Pico 2, and then I will hit duplicate, which you can't see, but I'm going to do Pimoroni. Let's do the Tiny 2350. That's what it's called, right? Yeah. And we'll have to ask them or somebody else for a PID, but we can ignore that for now. So no special initialization. We're going to update this Pimoroni Tiny. I don't know if there's a space or not, but let's just look at see how they did it in the other one. They have a space. Ah, they have a status RGB pixel. So let's take a look and see if we can't find a schematics coming soon. So Pimoroni is not open source or not open hardware. But we can use this. This has the pin mapping for us. Although, does it have a pixel at all? Yes, yes, here it is. 18, 19, and 20. And it's active low. That's okay, we have a knob for that. Taya says, the fact that the ESP32S3 can come in 32 megabyte flash versions and 8 megabytes PSRAM is just crazy. Probably unnecessary for most and more expensive than other S3 models, but still a useful thing for some. You should be able to do that flash and RAM configuration for RP2350 as well. I haven't really shown it, but you can run the RP2350 now supports external PSRAM. So it is very similar to the S3 in that regard. You have the same problems where it's not as fast as internal RAM, and there's a cache in front of it, and you have to like be very careful when you're doing flash accesses and stuff. Okay, so we're going to kind of reference this other one as well, because look, it's the same pinout. It was funny, I did the SparkFun board already, and it was like, oh, it's like all the pins are actually the same. Board I2C, 4 and 5. This says this is actually SDA is 12. So we're going to go back here. SDA is 12. Was it 12 and 13? Yeah, and I should make sure and not go over time. Yeah, 12 and 13. Okay, so this means that like board.I2C will allow you to plug in here. So these are like the niceties that you get when you have something that's actually like a board def for a given board, is that you just have better support for all the things that are on here. Okay, so we've done the status pixel. It's not a NeoPixel. Let's see what we have to do here. We're going to have to get a PID for it, but for now, and I think they just get them from Raspberry Pi. I'll just do it as a draft and I'll ping them. Like they're responsive, and I'm sure that they this support as well. It says 4 megabytes flash. I'm not actually sure that it's like 4 megabytes times 8 is 32, so this is right. Alarm is turned off because I haven't added support for it yet, and I assume it's the A package as well. Nothing there, so now we just need to figure out pin naming, and actually instead of starting from here, which is for the this is the pico pinout. I'm actually just going to crib from here instead, and I'll change it based on that. So I'll start, like, it's probably more similar to the other Tiny, similar to the Tiny 2040. So let's do that, and then we'll just take a look. So GPIOs 0 through 17. So here we have 0 through 7, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is actually quite nice because it's got because it's like a straight 8, and then there's A0 through A3, 26 through 29, grounds and V-bus. That sounds like exactly what we have. So let's just double check that our red, green, blue are 18, 19, and 20, 18, 19, 20. Like, they literally just started from the other design, and like, you shouldn't fault them for that. It makes total sense. User switch is on 23, which is true here as well. So I think this is probably good. I think we checked all the pins. So that's probably correct. Should we add an alias to call this button as well? So one thing you can do, and that you see they're doing it with A pins as well, is you can list multiple aliases. So this is kind of a programming thing where, like, a variable is a name for something, and you can have multiple variables refer to the same thing. And that's kind of what this is. So you can either say board.userswitch or board.button, and it will get you to the same thing. And then we play some tricks about printing out that thing. So when you print, if you have the object for like GPIO 23 and you print it out, it'll actually tell you the first entry that matches. So it would be board.userswitch. So you can have second things listed, and in fact, maybe we should just add it here too. Because I think button is more of a standard name for it, like Tyeth is getting at. So let's just do that too. Some have button and some have switch. So I don't want to remove user switch because, like, the older version only had that. So if you had code that you're moving from one to the other, I don't want to just switch them out from you, but that's the other reason I'm adding button. Okay, so let's build it and just double check. Pimoroni Tiny. Again, is there a space? 2350. No. And it's missing cascade.toml, which just means that I don't have my, like, shared virtual environment set up. So we're gonna build that, and then we'll add the other one as well. No sudden breaking. Yeah. This is something that is also a bit of a pet peeve of mine, is that, like, boards and the shapes of boards and the names that you name the pins, those are all like an API, right? Like, a feather is a feather is a feather is a feather, and if you have code that runs on a feather, it should just work, right? Like, if you have code that runs on a Tiny 20 whatever, it should just work, right? Like, you name the pins the same, you put them in the same place, you should just have the code be portable. And the reason it comes up a lot, like the expressive, like some of the Arduino cores don't have the ability to abstract between the name of the pin on the board and the name from the chip's perspective, the name or number. Like, there's no intermediate mapping that happens. It drives me bonkers. Sorry, I might have clipped there laughing. But I like part of writing portable code is having standard names for standard pins on a board. Okay, so it compiled, and maybe what I'll do is just in the, because Todd's watching, let's just pull it up and ports, Raspberry Pi, build Pimoroni UF2, and I'm just going to dump that in Discord. So that's the Tiny 2350. I still find it hard to type 2350. It's the same reason, like, we named circuit matter, and now when I type circuit, my brain like has this like extra, like, what am I typing? Okay, so there's one. We've got maybe about 10 more minutes because I want to give Foamy Guy a bit of a buffer. But we should be able to do, let's just do this other one that Todd says he had. I asked him ahead of time. He said he had a Pico Plus. It says it's pre-order, but must have been able to order them for a little while. They might have just run out. So let's do what we did last time, and we'll start with the regular Pico 2. Good night, Dave. Thanks for hanging out. Pimoroni Pico plus 2. I think that's a good name for it. Looks like it's their first Pico Plus. And the question is, what differences is it going to have from? So there's a regular LED. I don't see mention of an RGB LED. It just says it has a mono LED. Batch 1, maybe as late as September. Yeah, see, like the chips just aren't super available yet. Ah, it's a B. Okay, thanks for telling me. It is, the LED is on 25. So that's the same. The boot button is 45. B. It is interesting to see, let's see, okay, so I squared C. Huh. So these are doing double duty, I guess. What do you think the pinout of these three is? Oh, here it is. So this is the debug connector, and then this is an I squared C connector, and this is on pins 4 and 5, which I think is what we have already. I bet it's pin compatible. Yeah, 4 and 5. Stemma QT sharing with the header. Yeah, Garanoful says, interesting that Raspberry Pi has yet to integrate Type-C ports on their microcontrollers, with them being sort of a standard. Yeah, I think the reason is that if you really, truly, like I was just talking about boards as an API, if you truly want to be compatible, you actually need to keep the same connector. So I bet that's part of the reason they did it, is that it actually means that if you have a case with a cutout for the USB, or you have some other device that is going in, it actually means that it's more the same. So I think it's just a case of the original Pico had it and they're not about to change it. So the extra large connector is separate. mpconfigboard, So we're just gonna add a plus and do. Oh no, I didn't add SCL and SDA. Sorry. I can add that. Package B. Is it 4 megabytes flash again? 16. Okay, so 16 is what? 128? I don't even know if it's actually this chip, but it doesn't really matter. We auto-detect the size. I don't see board I2C or board stemma I2C. I thought that would be included with the standard dictionary items. I'm sorry. And then SCL and SDA are which pins? Oh, you know what? That's why. They should be here. No, this is the Tiny 2040. I'm looking at the wrong one. I've totally done this. I've been looking at the wrong pins. I thought this would cause it to be included. 12 pins. Let's see if ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot can help me. 12. Did we decide it was SDA? I don't actually want the GP names. SCL is 13. Wrong, Qster, MP. Qster. Stemma. I2C. I'll have to look up. I don't remember off the top of my head how to refer to it. Any final questions before we call it a day? Is the Tiny 2040 not have stemma on it? I guess maybe it doesn't. Let's see, which one of these would? Copy, this one would. We'll call it stemma I2C and I2C. Do we think that micro may stick around a bit longer with the integration being around a little longer? Yeah, I think so. I don't have a lot of time, but you're welcome to ask questions. Micro is just, like, the micro USB connector is super cheap. Like, it's only been the last year or two that Type-C connectors for USB 2.0 have really gotten cheaper. But do they belong here? New Adafruit boards have USB-C connectors on them. All right. I forgot what I was doing. Pins. My guess is these are all the same. I'm just going to do a quick, I know it's off screen. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 23 is SMPS mode. My guess is that's the same. LEDs 25, and then 26, 27, 28, and then E3 is voltage monitor. I think that's all correct. But then there's this connector down here, which I don't know what they call it. SP/CE. That must be a new connector from them. It looks like, oh, I guess it's UART and or SPI. So it's pretty much, I guess we don't have a boot button on here. So we need to take the boot button definition. Yay for boot and reset buttons. And it's pin 45, I think. It's a display connector. Okay, do we need anything else? Looking at NeoPixel and OpenRGB. I don't know what OpenRGB is. But I'm about to wrap up. I think I got everything. Let's build it. Yep, boot is 45. I did get that. Pico plus 2. It should build just fine. Display connector, interesting. And I will give you another tiny 2350 in just a second. Oops. Yeah. Yay for keeping the buttons away from the pins. So hard to use if they're by the edge when they're stuck stacking header pins on the board. For sure. I've also heard of Erin St. Blaine does a lot of pixel stuff, and she's just, look at her latest learn guides, because it's not OpenRGB, it's something else. But she's been in love with some other sort of NeoPixel-y thing. What's it called? WLED. Erin's in love with WLED for LED stuff. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, microcontroller.pin has been around a long time, but the SAMD21 builds don't have enough space to even store the pins that are on the controller but not broken out. So generally most boards should have references for all the pins on the microcontroller, even if they're not connected. It's only a flash space optimization thing. Let's double check that I added the things to the Tiny 2350, and I will make it again and post it. All right, so thank you everybody. It's been a pleasure. I know this is a bit of a short deep dive, but you've got a feel for it, a flavor for the tangents and the deep diving. Thanks again to everybody who stopped by and Liz and Ann for really organizing CircuitPython Day. It's not too late. I think there's still a discount code. CPD16 will get you 16% off on most things, but not all things. We have Discord server, which is the middle thing here. You can go to the URL adafru.it/discord to join there. Adafruit.com, I don't think I said to check that out. If you want to try CircuitPython and download it, you can go to circuitpython.org/downloads or just circuitpython.org and click the button. I'm probably around next week, but I do have family in town, so if you want to be notified about deep dive-y things, join the Discord, ping me, TanNewt, on Discord, and I can add you to a deep divers role, which is just a way for me to ping all of the folks that want to know about deep divers if things change. And with that, preemptive thanks to Foamy Guy for running out CircuitPython Day, and also, as always, for filling in for me during deep dives too. Have a great CircuitPython Day, everybody. Hopefully I'll see you next week. I won't see you the week after. I know that for sure. So 2 weeks from now, no deep dive from me. I will check with Tim. I haven't checked with Tim yet. But it's Labor Day weekend here in the US, so I will be in Canada. I will be having a long weekend. And then I should be back 3 weeks from now. Hopefully on Circuit Matter. But yeah, thanks a lot. I'll do a little bit of window cam and then get out of here. A little bit of a cloud.